Well, it's a good evening from Radio FM 88 Australia. It's the last show for the year for 2023. We'll be back in, I think it's 11th of January in 2024. As you can see, we've got the totem pole. Obviously, Jeff's at the bottom in the southern hemisphere, and at the top of the tree, of course, we've got Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Anyway, without further ado, with our guests from the United States, I hand it over to Andrina. It's a good morning and a good afternoon and a good evening to you all.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream, wherever you are in the world and whatever time of day you're listening, or even if you're listening to the replay. So a warm welcome to you all. And today it's the 14th of December, 2023. To think that. So we're on countdown now for Christmas. So today's the last show of the year, and it's great privilege. Oh God, teeth. It's a great privilege to have Nancy Rebecca on the show today. So welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Andrina.
And I came across only recently, probably within the last month or 6 weeks, I saw you briefly on Pam Gregory talking about the light beings and your out-of-body experience. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So obviously I sent messages, and here we are today. So thank you once again. And I know it's about 1 a.m. for you this morning. So it's a rather unearthly hour. So we really appreciate you taking the time out. You've got lots of strings to your bow, so to speak. You're a psychic reader, a healer, teacher, you're a registered nurse, and so much more. So where would you like to start? Would you like to start at the very beginning? And did you come in with all these gifts? Did you acquire them? Did you come from a spiritual family? And so much more. Oh, we've lost you.
She's unmuted herself. She muted herself.
There
you go. Yeah, you're back on.
Wow. Messing with the sound today,
hey? Yeah, definitely.
In the beginning,
What's the word?
About 1994, and I was working as a hospice nurse, and to just try to make this in a nutshell, but I had been working as an intensive care nurse and then went into hospice. So before I retired, and it turned out I would be working with the hospice families during the day. 3 of my own family members were diagnosed with cancer and had to be on hospice. So during the day, I would tend to my patients, and then I'd change clothes and come home and go visit my family members in that process. So it was quite a pressure cooker. And my husband, we're no longer married, but he was a police officer, so he had his own stresses. We had 2 teenagers, so I'm trying to be the mom and the nurse and the daughter-in-law or the niece, or, and I'm trying to wear all these hats, and I was very stressed. So when my favorite aunt was diagnosed, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I just remember going into my bedroom and locking the door, and I got down on my knees to pray, which was not what I would normally do. So I got down on my knees and said, God, why do people have to die? And I was just sobbing. So after that, I went and purchased a book on meditation. About 3 days later, I thought, well, let me read this book on meditation. Got through the first chapter of just simply turn down the lights and light a candle and close your eyes and breathe. And I felt a bit strange when that happened. So I thought, well, that's a good first start. Went to climb into bed. There was a flash of light. And next thing, I'm standing next to the bed. So I won't go into that. That is a story in itself. However, what ended up happening was when I came back into my body, suddenly I could see the spirit world at the same time I could see the human world. And I didn't know I was a spirit. So, still quite young then. I'm in my 30s. So I didn't know that I was a spirit, and I was terrified. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell anybody. So I was just pretending. And imagine being a hospice nurse when suddenly you can see spirits. So now I'm visiting my patients and the room's full of spirits. I've never experienced this. So now I'm trying to act like a normal person. And eventually I told my mother, who's a psychologist, and my father's also, he's a medical doctor. And they both believed me. And so I'm acting as normal as I'm acting now, but I was having very abnormal experiences. So that, we'll just say, led me to develop that side of my abilities. Those abilities have never turned off. They're still the same. And so that was 30 years ago. And so how it started was because I'm a nurse, I could see illness in the body now. I could see if the chakras were damaged, if the aura wasn't going up all the way around the head. I could see if the aura wasn't covering their feet. So I just started connecting those to different ailments in the body, or emotional ailments, or mental. And so I've studied over 20,000 human energy fields.
Wow.
So
that's quite a few.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I stopped working as a hospice nurse, started doing this full time. And then someone asked me if I could teach them how to be intuitive. And I thought, well, I don't know. I'll give it a try. So I had to really slow down. I'm like, okay, when I see something, what happened before I saw it? So I kind of really slowed everything down. And I started to know when people feel things and see things and know things and can hear spirits. What could happen. And each person's very different in their skill and ability. Everybody has intuition, but they don't know that they work with it. So that's when I started teaching classes, and that's what I do full time now. And I teach professionals psychics as a career option. And so I have students. I've been working with professional psychic as their teacher for about 12 years now. So fast forward to 2017. Now, up to this point, I have been seeing spirits, your loved ones, your fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers. I could see angels, or I could see the presence of Jesus, or just all kinds of things, tree people. But I had never seen star people before, ever in my entire, not at all, not even kind of a hint. And I always say it was not my wheelhouse. People would say, why don't you want to talk about aliens? And I'm like, well, it's just not my thing. It can be your thing, but it's just not my thing. I didn't have any aversion to it. But I'm sitting I have a meditation room in my house. And when very high level spirits come through, and they come through to me in larger numbers. So it isn't just like one coming in. It sounds actually like a jet engine, like an airplane landing. It's very loud, but it isn't like anybody else could hear it. But as soon as I heard the sound of like an airplane coming in for a landing, and then it's like the air pressure changes in the room, and suddenly I can see like the legs of these blue, very tall people, very luminescent blue. And I remember looking up because they were as tall as the ceiling or above, and they could almost had to crouch down. And it was just like, hello. I mean, what do you say?
Quite.
And it's like, can I help you? Because I'm not I'm used to spirits talking to me and asking me to do things and help them. And they said, yes, within a few years, the world is going to go through a mass shift in awakening consciousness. And we need you to let everyone know. And I was like, okay, all righty then. And how do you suggest I do that? And they said, well, we need you to go to China first.
Not too far.
Yeah. And I said, all right. And I said, well, if you need me to go to China, first of all, you're going to have to help me find the money to do that. And then I don't speak the language, so I wouldn't even know where to start to get an interpreter. So I just let them know what my human needs would be for me to get that information, that I didn't know what I was going for. I didn't know why I was going to China. They just told me to go to China. So it was probably a few weeks later. I was joking around about it. Now, at this point, they didn't say much else. They didn't say much else. And then they left. But I could feel their presence around. So it was a few weeks later, I had been kind of telling friends about what happened, friends who know me. And next thing you know, I get a phone call from a woman who's from China. And she said, I've heard that you've had this experience. You're supposed to go to China. I will take you.
Oh.
So there were 6 of us, 3 Americans and 3 who are American Chinese. And we went to China for a month. And as soon as we landed, I knew that the Blue Star people would bring me the experiences that I needed to have to find out about what this blue light was. So being in the middle of the night, I'm a little thirsty here. So all right, so I go to China and I land in Beijing. And I have an appointment to meet a Taoist master. So this friend who took me there had several Taoist masters lined up for me to meet. Now, it's different in China. I just want to explain to people that in China, they believe in past lives. In China, they believe in psychics, intuitives. They believe everybody's intuitive. They believe in prophets. They believe in all of this stuff. Here in the United States, not so much. And so I say that because they started testing me. So every Taoist master would put me through these tests to see not if I was real, because they believed my abilities were real. They wanted to find out what my abilities were. And I'm much more visual, but I'm also auditory. So it was pretty exhausting. And then at the end, they would say, well, we're not allowed to give you that information. You're going to have to find it out on your own. And so this is how it went. Oh, no, that's a very Taoist way. And in very high level spiritual teachings, it is about you getting your own information and that they're not allowed to interfere. But still, so I ended up in Xi'an, China, where if you've ever heard of the terracotta warriors.
Yeah.
So we ended up there, and my friend took me to a Buddhist temple. And at the Buddhist temple, they have the index finger of Buddha. So it's this beautiful golden temple, and this little gilded golden casing would come down with Buddha's finger. It comes out of the ceiling, and then it would drop down, and then visitors, tourists could come sit on the pillows underneath it and meditate for a few minutes. And there would be lines of people that would want to do this. So I stood in line. Now it's my turn. I kneel down And instantly a blue lightning bolt came down through this temple, struck me in the head. I fell backwards. My friend behind me fell backwards, and I had a vision. And so in the vision, I was pretty out of it. And then they kind of helped me off to the side to sit down. And the message that came through was there would be 3 surges of blue light. The first one would be coming in November 2019. And it would be coming through a pyramid in China. So that was the first information. The second one would be November 19th, 2021. And then the third one would be in November 2023, which we just had. I knew nothing about pyramids. Of course, we all know Egypt. We know that. But for them, they said, yes, there are pyramids in China. I did find like an old 1940 image of an American pilot flying over and took pictures of these white pyramids, and it happened to be in Xi'an, China. I didn't find this out till I got home. And now they're very protected with barbed wire fences and guards, so you can't get in there to see it. So after the first one happened, shortly after that, we had a COVID pandemic. I mean, that happened in November, and then the pandemic happened. I think it started in March. It started in my state, Washington State, in the nursing homes. And it was very profound. So I could see it, even though I wasn't in China. And, I think life kind of went on. I probably had about 200 people that I told, and we kind of meditated together at a distance. And do you have any questions so far?
No, it's fascinating. No, I haven't for a moment. I suppose if I backtrack, I was just wondering how many beings arrived in your bedroom. You say a group of beings. Is that like 2, 3, 8?
About 12.
Oh, really? Standing room only then?
Yes, it was standing room only.
Wow. Yeah.
And they had shown me several things. I'm really just trying to put this in, like I call the Reader's Digest version. Here, we have the Reader's Digest version. But what happened, let me explain what happened when the first one came through on November 19th, 2019. It was as if it came through, it pierced the earth through the pyramid, and then it just spread out throughout the entire world like this. And as they were telling me, the consciousness would be waking up for people, and their intuitive abilities, they would have higher sensing abilities. But for me, what I experienced, it felt kind of benign. Like, is that it? It just, you think it's going to be some big, massive explosion of light. And it wasn't. It was as if time stopped. And it was as if the birds stopped singing and the animals. And it was like everything stopped. It just seemed like there was this still point. And it was almost like in the movie where you see people slowly moving and then they stop and then they start speeding up again. That's what it felt like. Like everything slowed down in the world for maybe no more than 2 minutes. And then when it took off again, it's just like all the sound came back and you could hear the birds again. And it was like, okay, let's go have lunch now. It just felt like nothing happened. But later on, when I spoke to other people, they had profound experiences. And then it was at that point, I started seeing light codes coming down. So I was standing in my living room and just looking out on the street, and I'm seeing, it looks like rain, but nobody else can see it. And it's just these blue sparkles coming down. When I asked the blue star people, and they said, well, those are light codes. They're filled with information, and where it's activating DNA. Now you have to understand, what I do for a living is really wild.
Definitely.
And this was over the top for me. It was like, okay, and I'm a nurse. So I'm like, okay, so these light codes are coming down and they're activating DNA. And what does that mean? And so they just explained that within the frequency that we live in, or the vibration that we live in, we have the DNA that we function with. And it's kind of limiting. And so what would be happening was other DNA would get activated within our system. And so then we would be able to understand more. We would have higher levels of knowledge. It isn't like we would all be walking around in robes and be,
Yeah.
brilliant geniuses. It isn't like that. It's going to meet everybody where they are. But I had a woman write me who said, I never could do math in school, ever. I failed math all the time. I couldn't do my fractions or my multiplications or anything like that. And she said, and now I can just whip mathematical answers right off the top of my head.
Wow.
So it isn't like she's an Einstein, but all the fear is gone. She has no fear about mathematics. She's not intimidated by it. So it's that kind of, suddenly she could do that. And so, yeah. And then we waited for the next one, which would be through the pyramid, Tiwa. It's right outside Mexico City. Teotihuacan. I know I'm not saying it right. At Teotihuacan, and that the blue light would be coming through the sun pyramid. So it has a sun pyramid, it has a moon pyramid, and then I can't remember what the third pyramid is. So by this time, it's dawned on me that these pyramids are aligned with this Orion's belt and the Sirian constellation. I didn't do astronomy before. I mean, all this is new as these discoveries are coming. And when they spoke to me, it isn't like I heard like you and I are talking. It's not like that. I would hear whale and dolphin sounds. And yeah, that's it. Oh no, that's Chichen Itza. Tiwa, there it is, Pyramid of the Sun. That's it. Oh, that's a perfect picture. So they told me they needed me to go down to Mexico because there was a problem with the Sun Pyramid. So I'm going to explain this. And so in 2021, in February 2021, I went to Mexico. I went to the pyramids there. And then they told me the problem with the Sun Pyramid is missing the capstone.
Mm.
Have you ever heard that pyramids have a capstone?
Yeah, totally.
Yep. No, never heard of that before. And so I said, well, what happened to it? And they said, well, so they asked me to bring the blue light, to just do a simulation of the blue light, to bring it down through the top. Well, I noticed the blue light went off to the side and then came in. So if you're looking at that image there, it couldn't come through the top. It went off to the side down to the second level. And then it entered the pyramid through the side. And they said, we need you to fix this. These are not small things they're asking me to do.
No, quite. You obviously signed up for this.
Well, I've done this enough to know that life is much easier if I just follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, totally.
So I went into the museum and I asked them what happened to the capstone. And they didn't know. I mean, at the museum, they didn't know what I was talking about. So on the way out, we found a little tourist book outside the gate and looked it up, and the capstone had been destroyed by the Catholic Church.
Oh, no
Like in
surprise.
1920, they smashed it.
Mm.
So we weren't going to build a new capstone, but there was a team of us, probably about 50 of us, that would get together, and we were always working on repairing the energy field. So we energetically built it back up just in time for November, so that in November 19th, 2021, the light would be able to come down through the top. And it was, the experience was a little bit stronger. We had a little bit larger group, very similar, that still point, very benign, like, okay, a big buildup, you know, of fixing the pyramid and all this stuff. And then suddenly it's like, all right, would you like a sandwich? You know, it was just that benign. However, many things were shifting in the world, politically, banking wise, corruption, wars. I mean, all of this was getting stirred up at mass levels. I have no idea if these high blue frequencies were unsettling the world, but I know that some people were feeling better.
It's interesting you say, because I was in Hawaii 2007, I think. And I did a dolphin and whale sound seminar, and Joan, who was teaching us at the time, was sharing about that I can't remember where she was, so I don't know the full story, so this is a rough story, if you like. And she was in a big store somewhere, and the music was coming through this, you know, the pipe music, and all of a sudden a different note come through, and she said everybody stopped. They were like, you know, and she said, and this different sound that's come in, and she said, I stood and I watched everybody, you know, reaching for a book, doing all sorts of things, and like, you know, even in the till and wrapping up, and then all of a sudden that note stopped and the piped, and then everybody just carried on. Nobody knew what had happened, only unless you're really aware or have got that gift. So it's sort of very similar to what you said.
Yeah, and so it would come through the whale sounds, but there's a connection to this. So I found the connection in a book. It's called, the author is Drunvalo. So I know how to spell his first name, Drunvalo Makizeldeck.
Yeah.
It's not the Flower of Life or the Book of something. He's got two. Volume 1 and 2.
Yeah, no, I've seen it.
It's got the mandala on the front. So I was able to find out that all of these were highly connected to Orion's belt. They were highly connected to Sirian. They were in alignment with the Egyptian pyramids. They were in alignment with the Chinese pyramids and Mexico pyramids. Oh, wait, I forgot to say this, something that's really important. So afterwards, the Chinese friends, when I shared with them this vision, when I was struck by the blue light, they started chattering and really talking quickly. There it is, The Ancient Secret of Life, Drunvalo. So, sorry, I don't mean to jump back and forth, but in that book, they talk about how the star people came to Earth, and they came through the water as dolphins and whales. So, and that they would come onto the land to impart high levels of knowledge to the people. And apparently at that time, we made a big mass shift in consciousness at that time as well. The book's quite intense. It's got a lot of sacred geometry and things like that in it. But I just wanted to go back to China. so when I told them of the vision, they started talking really quickly. And I said, what's happening? And they said, that prophecy that you just told us is printed in a book in China that's 1,500 years old.
Ah,
It just blew my mind. So, yeah. And then I did finally meet a Taoist master. I do want to say this. It was the day before I was leaving. And they asked me to meet one more. And I said, oh, I think I'm too tired. And they said, you have to. He never sees anybody, and he's agreed to see you. So I'm sitting in his room. We have an interpreter, and suddenly he burst pure blue, radiant light.
wow.
And I went, oh, you're a star being. And I said this telepathically. And I said, oh my gosh, you're from the stars. You're from the star. Like, I was so excited. So I'm telling him telepathically, and then he smiles. He's telling me back telepathically. Very good. The interpreter says, you came all this way. Do you have anything to ask him? I said, I don't need interpreters. We're having a lovely conversation. The interpreter told him, and he smiled again. So he was very happy to see that I could see the blue, and he was very happy to see that I could hear him. And so we proceeded for the next 30 minutes to talk. After we were finished, he did tell the interpreter to tell me that I was very accurate. I knew exactly what I was talking about. What was happening was really real, and that many of the Taoist masters would be intimidated by my abilities. So that's why they didn't want to share, I found out. Well, that's lovely. So they have, we'll just come all the way up now to 2023. By this time, we have about 2,000 people who are following the Blue Light. I've got a Facebook page that's called the Blue Light Movement page. So it's a private page, but anybody can join. And I mostly made it private because I wasn't ready to come out of the closet. I mean, it's normal, kind of normal to say a human energy field, but to say star people from another planet are visiting you is, that's a whole other ball game. And I'm a professional nurse, and I get professional referrals from doctors and therapists. So I didn't want to rattle that cage, but I'm totally out now. Pam Gregory did that one.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, because go on.
Yeah. Well, so this third one, I kept waiting. What's the date? What's the date? And they told me this third one's going to come through the pyramids in the southwest of the United States. So I said to them, we don't have pyramids in the southwest of the United States. And they said, what is hidden will be revealed. So for 2 years, I waited for these pyramids to be revealed. And then my mother gave me a book called The Orion Zone. And in the book, The Orion Zone talks about how the 3 mesas on the Hopi land, Mesa 1, Mesa 2, Mesa 3, that they use, they're aligned with Orion's belt and the planet Sirius. So this book is really full of information. And that's when I realized, that's where the blue light's going to come through. And then I waited for the date for a long time. And then finally they said, you keep waiting for one date, Nancy. It's 3 dates. We're going to come through each pyramid 3 in its own time frame. And so that was November 4th, went through Mason number 1, November 18th, it went through Mason number 2, and then November 25th was Mason number 3. And they were all extremely different in the energies and frequencies that came through. The first one was the strongest. It was so powerful and how it moved through the world. And that they said we needed 2 weeks before the next surge, just so at the human level we could
Yeah.
integrate. Yeah.
Say flip.
And so, yes, so Pam Gregory had contacted me. I had emailed her maybe 6 months before, and she phoned, and then she said, can we talk about this? Can I interview you? I think that was maybe on the 2nd of November. So the first surge would be the 4th, and that it just exploded. And I started hearing from people from all over the world that they've been seeing these blue beings of light their entire life or in the past few years. Their abilities are waking up. So I loved it. I have loved it. I love knowing that there's so many people out there and that consciousness is awakening. And we're all still kind of recovering because it's just December 14th. That hasn't been that long. And I have to remind people, I had to keep my hands on the steering wheel of the car, but I was going through the shifts just like everybody else. It was not easy to be that voice and also be going through the shifts.
No, quite. So. I bet. I got a job dealing with the shifts as it is at the minute. It's like, oh my God, flip.
Yeah. So
is this similar? Because we've heard a lot. It's like the solar flash is coming in and, you know, is shifting and moving and helping. So do you think the blue light is the same as the solar flash, if you like?
It's so much bigger. It's so much bigger. I think that the solar flare, I don't know a lot about the solar flares, and I've had a lot of people writing. They show me the little images of the solar flares happening and hitting the earth. Those can be quite harsh. The blue light comes from much further out. It was only this summer I finally said, can you tell me where you're from? And they said, we're from the dog star. And I happened to have a medicine man staying with me at the time, and he came down in the morning for coffee. I had been meditating, and I said, grandfather, do you know where the dog star is? And he just stopped. And he goes, well, of course. That's where my people are from. So I looked it up. I Googled it, Dr. Google. And sure enough, under Wikipedia, the dog star from the planet Sirius is there. And I had never heard of such a thing. So I can hear whale sounds in the back now, but because the frequency of the earth has expanded so much, they can come down further. And now I hear them in English. I don't hear the whale sound. So, okay. So back to your question, like solar.
The picture here. This is Sirius.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Beautiful. So what I've been shown is the blue light comes into our solar system. So it's way outside of our solar system. And then it comes in, and it's not like shooting off a cannon or a volcanic eruption. It can be very quiet. Time and space stops. I don't know if you've been noticing time, yet just the other day, it's like I'm doing some work. It's 7:00 in the evening, and I've been writing. I probably have written 4 pages, and I look up at 7:02. So these are the types of things that we're experiencing. So in some ways, it's much gentler. I would say what's happening is from the inside out. I wouldn't say like a solar flare would come in this way. I think the blue light it's an awakening of divinity light. It's awakening people to their own divineness so that they can get their own answers, that everyone in humanity can trust themselves. And more recently, I haven't talked about this yet, kind of publicly, but it's kindness. This frequency of kindness is coming through. And they said to me, imagine if there's a flood of kindness to the earth, how can someone pick up a gun and shoot somebody else if all they can feel is overwhelming kindness? And I could feel that kindness they were sharing with me. And I thought, wow. So here we're thinking from a 3D perspective of how to stop wars. And they're sharing how it can be done in an entirely different way.
Excuse me, Jeff, is that you? You got frogs or dogs in the background?
Frogs.
Right, it's very
Frogs.
noisy. It's very noisy.
I love it. I live in the city, so I love it. But yes, it does not sound like frogs.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do
They're calling in the
believe
dolphins and the whales.
yes.
Sorry. Sorry.
But I do believe that the solar flares, I think it's all in concert with each other. You know, I think, and I do, they show me, I have to look at a map of the world, but they have been showing me that the blue surges are coming through different places in the world. So they've only started talking to me again a couple of days ago. So all this is new information that's coming in that I need to record. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating times that we're living in.
Yeah, very much so. So moving on, I know you do a live podcast, you were saying, is it 7 a.m. your time every day? So you've been doing that for a while?
Yeah, 4 years. So it's on Thursday mornings here on the Pacific Coast. So I do have a YouTube channel. You could just type in Nancy Rebecca. I used to go by Intuitive Mind. Intuitivemind.org is my website. And I like to tell people about my website because if you go under the shop button, you click that, there's free meditations, and I have 2 blue light meditations that people can meditate with, and they have pretty profound experiences. But the blue beings of light asked me to go into the recording studio to record those, so I recorded them in 2018, and they said that would help us to acclimate to that blue frequency. But they said the blue light, it says, what is hidden will be revealed. Yeah, the shop button right up by the calendar. And then if you see where it says free intuitive style, because I like to teach intuition, if you click join the mailing list, then you'll be sent to your email a 9-page quiz so you can get a sense of what your type of intuition is. But yes, on Thursdays, I do a live talk, and my live talk today is about celestial portals. But I do talk about other fascinating, interesting things, like what does anger look like in the energy field?
Yeah, go on.
You know, so I like to talk about the human energy field. I mean, as a nurse. But I have started making more videos, but there's a movement. It's this blue light. It's a movement that's happening throughout the whole world in all countries. And this blue light is touching every person, whether they're aware of it or even believe in it or not. And they're not done yet.
No. So do we have any more like we've had the 3 blue lights come through, and we're still in the 3rd one, and we're still adjusting to those energies. Well, I speaking for me, I know I am. So have they given you any more information moving on from that?
No. So when I said they've just started talking to me again, you know, I think it's I'm just going to say it's a Western minded thing. Maybe it's just a world thing, but it's like, okay, that's done.
Yeah.
What's next? And the blue star people are like, all right, you've just had a complete metamorphic overhaul of your entire system, your genetics, give it a rest. And that they used rest, just rest. So they would not, it was just like a wall up. I'd say, if I even thought about it, I would hear them say rest, rest. And so a couple of days ago, I think it was on Sunday, they came back in again. They still were saying rest, but they did want to let me know that there was going to be some blue between, what is this? This is a 14th. So December 15th, starting tomorrow through the end of December 30th. There's going to be like a gentle soaking rain. They blue, and it's very gentle. It's very soothing, very salve-like, very calming, very kind. They said it's going to be like if you're in a tropical warm area. You're walking around and the warm rain feels good. It's going to feel like that. So up and coming, I do know a little bit about it, but I won't. But for me to tap into a future event and to tap into a future frequency, I wouldn't say it's hard on my body, but but if I need to be in that resting state right now, I need to not do that. But they'll let me know. But I'm not sure that it's going to be like the blue surges anymore. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be something different, because the whole astrology in 2024 is just mind-blowing. I don't know anything about astrology, but it's mind-blowing what's going to happen in 2024. I'm super excited.
That's enough. I think, that we've had, like you say, the 3 lots of blue lights. And when I listened to you on Pam, and then we sat and did the meditations, and like you say, if we think too far ahead, we're being in the future, and we're not being in the now. And at the moment, we're all dealing with all these different energies, and people are having much more awareness now and asking questions or questioning things that have been happening. And so, this is where we've all signed up to be here at this amazing time in history.
Yes.
And the show's not over yet.
No, it's not. And it's what I believe, and my experience in working with thousands and thousands of energy fields and spirits, is that to be able to be a spirit in a human body, it's like you were given the golden ticket. I've had this vision of all these souls, up in soul heaven. And they're saying, we need volunteers to go to Earth, and people just clamoring, I want one of those tickets. I want one of those tickets. And they'll say, it's going to be rough down there. It's going to be an emotional time. We're heading out of the dark ages into the golden ages. And remember, you've got feelings down there on the Earth, and you're going to have all those feelings. And it's, I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to miss this time on Earth. I don't want to miss it. It's going to be so incredible. And then we come down here and we're just like, oh my gosh, my head hurts and my back aches, and my friend called me names or backstabbed me, or, my partner's doing this. And it's like, that's just how it is. But
did I really sign up for this? I've said this many a time. Are you sure?
Exactly. And but they told me the other 2 days ago, they said, Nancy, you are a messenger with a message. And then they said, every single person on this earth is a messenger with a message. And it doesn't have to be some big, glorious thing. The message is just love one another, or the message could be kind, or the message is about teaching about autistic children, or the message is, everybody's going to have their thing. But if they don't ever share it,
Yeah.
it's just like somebody's putting the brakes on in the car, you know,
Mm, mm.
instead of putting the pedal to the metal.
I like that.
I've muted myself so the frogs wouldn't come through. But I just want to show you this in Bosnia, the big pyramids that they discovered there some 8 years ago. The Pyramid of the Sun. There's about 4 of them they found so far.
Oh, I see it. Oh, wow. See, someone wrote to me, Jeffrey, just recently and told me that there are more pyramids being discovered. And the blue beings of light have said many pyramids are going to be revealed. Wow. Wow.
It's bigger than the one at the Giza Plateau.
I believe it. And they showed Pam Gregory was telling she had gone to the pyramids in Mexico, outside Mexico City, and she showed, or I went up and looked at a picture back then and it looked just like that. I mean, they had to slowly uncover it.
Yeah,
Wow.
more and more is being revealed everywhere, on many levels.
I actually met the guy who discovered it. They call him Dr. Sam because he's got a real long name. But he copped a lot of ridicule from Egypt, from the Minister for Interiors, who
Really?
made sure that all archaeologists who wanted to come to Egypt, they had to poo-poo this Bosnian pyramids, otherwise they couldn't come to Egypt. But he's now been removed from office. So, but they've discovered
Has he really?
tunnels that go into it. Yeah, the old guy. So they discovered tunnels that have been backfilled. So they've been, as they excavated it, as they go in there, everybody's having massive healing processes that are taking place within their bodies.
Oh,
it's been quite
wow.
profound. Yeah.
Well,
And
they
I
did
just-
call it, they did say that, when I was asking about pyramids, and they were saying that they are amplifiers, and that many pyramids will start to be found again, and that it's helping to amplify this, I'll just call it a supportive light, an awakening light. And it's not the only light that's coming in. I do believe now we are being supported by the universe, and I believe we are supporting the universe. I believe we all work in tandem together. But they did just say to me yesterday, you think about how it feels when you feel our energy from where we're from. They said, have you ever thought about how it feels to us when we feel your energy?
God,
It's
I couldn't
just,
imagine.
it's just as beautiful, they said.
It must be, but also having to come through all the layers of denseness as well.
They couldn't in the beginning. I mean, they did come through. They were very see-through, almost like a hologram projected into the room where I am. But more can come now. I see them by the thousands now. They're coming all over the world, and I've seen a lot of them when I look at the wars that are happening. There are a lot of beings there. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure what they, yeah, I definitely don't know their strategy or what the plans are long term. And all I do know that my son told me when he was a teenager, he said, Mom, when I'm in my 30s, there's going to be a revolution. I had a dream there's going to be a revolution. And he goes, but it's not going to be a revolution like we learned about in the history books. It's going to be a revolution about love. And I think that's what we're going through right now. He's
Definitely.
43 now. I asked him if he remembered that dream, and he said, like it was yesterday.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He said it was that powerful. So that can't be all that bad, right?
No,
If we're
definitely not.
going through a revolution of
And you've
love.
got a lot of the children that are coming in really awake and aware.
Very much, very
You
high
see it in their
frequencies.
eyes,
Yeah.
can't you? Oh my God. When you see some of them, you think, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're certainly talking even the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds talking in ways. It's just like, oh yes, I'm from Pleiades. Oh yes, I'm Sirian. Oh yes, I'm from Lyra. It's just like, I had no idea that when I was that age.
No. It's all a learning curve, eh?
Yeah.
Hey, I had a good laugh there when you were talking about people signed up to come here, because I was visualizing the movie called The Green Beautiful, and it's very hard to get these days. You have to go on Vimeo to watch it, but it's such a funny show. It actually was filmed in Europe by the French, and it got banned because of its message, which was releasing and getting away from commercialism. But when the movie opens up and it's got all these people walking across these hillsides to come to this mountaintop, which is all green, and they lay out the blankets and they all got their food, and then finally this elderly lady gets up and says, "Right, we've been invited to go to Maxos or Kraxos. We've been invited to go to Christos, and who wants to go to Earth?"
Nobody.
Yeah. So finally, the woman does put her hand up, and so she travels through the water through a bubble and travels through, arrives in Paris with all the fumes and carbon dioxide, and she walks across to the bakery to go and get something to eat, and she has to learn. Oh, the lady behind the counter just can't understand what she's trying to say because of her language, and so she has to go and. Finally, she goes through all these different languages before she finds French, and then she clicks in.
Oh my gosh!
Definitely one to watch. Yeah. So fun! It really is so funny.
What's the name of it again?
The Green Beautiful.
The Green Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I've been telling everybody it's the beautiful green. I just like to.
Vimeo.
Sorry. Oh, Vimeo, yeah. Can I quickly ask something? I know we're coming near the end. I read somewhere that you work with a diviner of the doing bone readings with the Sangoma of the Zulu tribe, and that I thought, could you share a little bit about that?
I don't usually share it. Not that it's secret or anything, but because there's just so much. My life is just so much. So I lived in South Africa around the year 2000. So I've been back and forth. I have a lot of friends in South Africa, but my mother had come to visit when I lived there, and she said, "I want to meet a Sangoma. And I want to have a bones reading." And I didn't know anything about this. So I thought, well, she's coming to visit. And so I called around and they said, "You can't find medicine people, they'll find you." To make a long story short, it took about 8 years, and they kept telling me, "You need to stay. You are a Sangoma. You must go through the training." And I just thought, wow, I don't think that's on my list of things to do. And but for about 8 years, and at one point they didn't even want me to get on the plane. They said, "You don't understand. If you have a calling to help humanity, or you just can't say no. And if you go through this training, it's going to help you be more connected so you can do that work." There is a story to that about how I finally said yes. And I did go through the training over 3 years, and I flew back and forth between here and South Africa. So yes, I do read the bones, and bones divination is it is the most complex divination in the world, because each bone, and yes, some of them are bones, but some of them are shells, some of them are seeds, some of them are stones, some of them are little trinkets. But one bone means one thing and another bone means another thing. But if the two bones touch each other, it means something totally different. So it's a very complex system. And yeah, it's incredible. And I still I read the bones about what's happening with the blue light. So I'll throw the bones, and the blue beings will talk to me through the bones as well.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, but I know somewhere in my psyche, somewhere I know something to do with these bones. And when I read that, I thought, oh, I must ask you about that. And I got a feeling I've been somewhere on my travels and I've seen somebody doing it, but yeah, it's not something you see.
No, it's very. I think here in the United States there might be 5 people who can read the
Really.
bones, and you have to be trained in South Africa. And it's not like you can go over there and say, I'd like to take a weekend workshop on bones reading. You have to be called. You know, they tell you, the ancestors want you to go through this training. And so
Amazing. Well, there's so many different things out there. Hey.
yeah.
Right. Well, I'm aware of timing for you. That it's 2 a.m. Is it now?
It is 2 a.m. and I'll be getting up in a few hours to do my talk. But I did see I saw a question pop up about healing. Are there any ways you recommend to heal your own energy field? Yes, that's what I teach people to do, is how to heal their own energy field. So Andrew, what I would offer for you is the free meditations on my website. And then if you go to YouTube, all of my videos are educational. So I'm teaching you about your human energy field. My intention is that everybody in the world is able to be independent in their own self-care energetically. And so you can transform lots of things. I teach through experiential learning. So I don't tell you what to do. I guide you in meditation while you do it and you learn. So I do have classes. I do have many classes. So I'll just say one other thing. This Sunday, I am, I do a psychic reading on a whole group of people as if they are one person. So if you go to the home base, home, Jeffrey, and then it'll have the winter solstice right there with the woman with the hat, winter solstice group reading. So in that we already have 200 people, but I guide the 200 people through a meditation, and it's extremely healing. We shift a lot of energy. So I always do the equinoxes and the solstices. So I just want to make sure to let you know that, just because it's coming up quickly in just a few days.
So say, yeah, with a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Well, thank you both so much.
Can
I
I ask you?
Yeah.
Why did you come on the show today? I mean, it's 1 o'clock in the morning for you. I mean, I'm very grateful.
Oh, well, I was just about ready to say that, so I must have picked it up telepathically.
Thank you. Okay.
I have several students from Australia, and I have a lot who write to me from New Zealand, Australia, from England, all over Europe. And my students, who one is active now and the other one has taken a pause, but they get up in the middle of the night and they would go on my teaching calls with me. And I thought, all right, if they can do it, I can do it. And so that was the deciding factor, other than the fact that Spirit told me to. Spirit said, you need to. Because I've had many requests, and I haven't. I think you're the only one that I've come on so far, other than Pam. But the other thing was that, yes, I have lovely people in Australia, New Zealand, and England who join my classes, and they get up in the middle of the night to do it. So
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time at that early hour, because you look amazing. You look glowing. It doesn't look like
I don't look like it's 2 o'clock in the
no,
morning.
not at all, not at all.
No, very good.
So
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I think that it's lovely. You're going to get to now have a little holiday and have a few weeks off.
definitely.
And thank you so much for having me on. And you both are very lovely people and lovely souls,
Thank
and
you.
wanting to help the world. It's always my cup of tea.
All right. Well, thank you once again, and it's been an absolute delight to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And just a reminder, everybody, we're having 3 weeks off, so looking forward to that. Some time out. Surprising how much time and effort we do behind the scenes. So, and then we'd be starting off the new year with a new guest list. So, thank you very much, everybody, for sharing.
Yeah. Everybody's coming in with their thank yous. Okay. Edith,